Let's take a look at something else we can do with arrays here. In this particular case, we can use them to flip through pictures. Now you've seen this before, right? Where we just flipped between one and another. But look, I'm getting a new picture and a new picture, and then I get back to the old. So I'm rotating through 4 different pictures. Every time I click, I go to the next one. And when I get to the last one, I turn back around to the first. So let's see how arrays help us with this. I have 2 global, I call them variables. They're actually properties of the app.ns object, but we use them right here, right? It says properties as variables. So we're using them as variables. The first one has the names of the image files for the 4 images that we're going to use. This one, curpic, tells us which picture we're currently looking at. And so we're currently looking at picture 0. Now remember, 0 will be the index for Moon, 1 will be the index for Mars, 2 for Jupiter, and 3 for Saturn. And then we have to wrap back around to 0 to start over again, as you can see. All right, what about the body? Well, that's pretty easy. I have a figure, and inside the figure, I have a picture, and you notice that the source is empty. So we're going to initialize it somewhere. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this is pretty sparse. I do have the heading up here. If we look at the initialization, it's app.ns init. And what we do here is we take util.eid pick1. Since we know that's the ID of this thing, we're just going to initialize this by ID. Its source is going to get app.ns pix 0. Well, app.ns pick 0 is moon.jpg, and that's the picture of the moon right there. So that's how we're initializing. Oh, and we're also initializing current pick to be 0. Now we did that up here, so that might be redundant. But when we're doing an initialization function like this, it's good to make sure that we're initializing everything, just to make sure we don't make any mistakes. So that's how the initialization function works. Now, how do we do the flip when we click? Well, here's our event listener, and we're listening for a click on pick 1. That's this picture here. So this is kind of like we've done things in the past, although we are using an event parameter. And our event parameter, we're checking to see if it's an image. And so we could do it without the event parameter in this case. But it's good to just use it once we're used to using it. It makes life easier. We don't have to use all of those, get element by ID things. So if we're not getting an image, then we're going to return. This is also going to help us because we're going to build on this for future times, and this will help. So here we increment. Remember that plus plus makes curpic go up 1. So up here, if it starts at 0, then when it comes in here the first time, it's going to go up 1, so it'll go to 1. Now we have to have some way to wrap around. I'm at the last one. When I click, I've got to come back around to Moon, and that's what this if statement is doing. If it's greater than or equal to the length, and remember the length of this would be 4, but the only valid indexes are 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if we get to a value that is greater than or equal to 4, then we reset app.ns curpic to 0. And I've even put a little console log in here so we can watch what happens as we go around. So let's do that. Let's go get the tools, and it might help you to see what's happening. So let's reload. All right, so we reload, and here we are. So on my first click, now you'll notice the console log is going to tell me what the index is just before it assigns the new picture, and you notice that it assigns the new picture by using app.ns pix. That's this up here, and it uses app.ns curpic. That's this thing that has the number in it that we use to rotate from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 and then back to 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's the number that is used as the index. So the console log will give us a little bit more view of what's going on. So we've reloaded. I'm going to click here, And you notice how the index is moved up to 1 and it tells us what the pick file is, Mars. And that should be right because this is at index 1 in the array here. When I click again, it says index 2, Jupiter, and that's right because that's what I've got. Index 3, you notice it says we've got Saturn, and I have Saturn. And then when I click again, you notice how this goes down to 0. And the reason that goes down to 0 is that when this was 3, when APPNS was 3 and we incremented it, it went from 3 to 4. But remember, the length of the pix array up here is 4 because it has 4 elements. And so now kerpic, or appns kerpic, is greater than or equal to appns pix length. That is, this has gone to, this 3 went up to 4, and the length is 4. And so what it did is it reset this back down to 0 so that we could use it for the moon one. And that's how this works. So that's gives you a sense of how we can do rotating. Now, when we do rotating, there's a better way of going back down to 0 than this, and that's what we're going to show you next.